What's going on, Pizza Fam? Listen, before we get into the episode, I just wanted to make a quick shout out to Thrive POS. They've recently partnered with the podcast and they bring an exclusive offer for our listeners. Listen, Thrive POS is not just a POS system. It was built for operators just like us. It's fast, it's reliable, and most importantly, it helps us focus on what matters: our pizza, our people, and our profits. Check out the exclusive offer from Thrive POS at thrivepos.com/pizzaking, or just click the link in the description. Now let's get into the episode.
We can technically scale to as many simultaneous customers as you want. If you have, 5 customers calling in at once, if you have 20, we could handle that just as easily.
Okay.
We do have some customers that have to call us and be like, hey, we've got to shut this thing off. We're taking too many orders and the kitchen is backed up. That is the best way to do it, right? Is like, hey, we are sending so many orders your way and it is working so well that like the kitchen is the bottleneck, not us. And so that's the great thing about being able to automate some of this stuff, is that like you get a ton more volume and then you can shift somebody that was working on the phone to helping with any of the other operations inside the restaurant, right?
All right, there we go. Welcome back to the Pizza King podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyrell Reed, joined by very special guest Logan Whitehouse from Virnika AI. Logan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for having me, man.
Tell us about who you are and what Virnika is.
Yeah, so I have an interesting background coming from the restaurant, the restaurant industry. I used to be a biologist. So I did a lot of research work back in the day. Before that, I used to work in pizza joints. So shout out to Mozzie's. If anybody listening is from Greenfield, Indiana, my small podunk hometown. But yeah, I used to be a research biologist and got into programming. And then I met Cameron and Charles, my co-founders at Virnika, and they pulled me into the restaurant tech space. A lot of interesting stuff to work on and problems to solve. So I kind of got hooked immediately. We founded Virnika, which is a platform of AI agents for, helping out restaurant operations. One of our core products is a phone automation assistant. So it plugs in your point of sale, plugs in your phone system, takes the order for the customer, transfers them in if somebody left their glasses in the booth or something like that, so you don't completely lose that human touch. Really pulls away the labor of the phone from having to interrupt people in the store and getting that high quality human on human touch.
How did you guys decide that solving problems for the restaurant industry was the way to go?
So Cameron and Charles have a really long background in restaurants, right? Cameron grew up, his family owned one growing up, and then he worked at US Foods for a long time.
Okay.
That was a big sales rep in the Raleigh-Durham area. Charles founded and operated Takeout Central, which was a local delivery platform for like the Chapel Hill area and eventually extended into all of North Carolina. So they both have tons of experience, owning, operating adjacent restaurant services, right? Not restaurant themselves. I used to do, like I said, I used to sling pizzas at a local pizza joint, but other than that, I didn't have the same amount of experience they did. I just came in with the academic side of things. So they wanted to look for the next thing that they were doing. They were both working at Takeout Central, and they decided to exit that. And so they hooked up with me through a mutual friend, and we kind of agreed that it was a good fit, like culture-wise.
Yeah.
That's most of the game, right? Is figuring out like, can you find people you want to work with? I'm sure, everybody has a story of somebody they can't, but finding somebody that you really can work with is like, all right, now we can make something happen here. We did a lot of customer interviews. We talked to 30, 40 different restaurateurs and operators and people in different parts of the vertical. The question that we kept coming back to was labor. Like people it's hard to staff. It's super expensive right now, and when you can find good quality people, you really need to grab and hold them tight, right? And that makes them more expensive, which is good that you have good people, but also means that like you're in this constant churn cycle. And we hear this over and over again of like, people are just underwater. And so whatever we could do to try to automate that and try to help out with that overhead is the goal we set out with. And the phone was an easy target for us because it was relatively new tech, so it was exciting from that standpoint, but it also had the overhead in the restaurant. Like if you're working at a pizza place like I was, we were doing deliveries and then cleaning and then taking phone orders, and everybody hated answering the phone. I've never met a single person, I'm sure they exist, but I've never met anybody that like, sits there and enjoys answering the phone at a restaurant. So
It
it
takes a
was,
very special person to enjoy that role.
yeah, a special and good word for it. Yeah. But yeah, our goal is to reduce the operational burden for restaurateurs and for the workers inside. And so far we've had a lot of great feedback on the product, and I think we're really excited to see where else we can take it.
I like it because it doesn't, everyone understands that we have to embrace tech, as the wave of the future, right? Everyone understands to grow and to scale, we need to embrace technology. But as an operator, that doesn't mean I want to do it, right? Like, and it sounds like let me do it and figure it out, but I don't want to be the one that has to manage it and do it. And it sounds like this solution is something that you can plug into just about any situation, and it's not going to change what I have to do as the pizza maker in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's we want to make people's lives easier and not harder, right? And it's not like a point of sale swap out where that's
Exactly.
how hard it is, man. It's like it is nowhere near approaching that. And we do a lot of, people hear AI, and I think they often assume that we're a very like tech bro company, very very techie forward and that kind of thing. But we actually take, Cameron also describes it as like the southern touch of hospitality, where we are a very white glove approach to technology in the restaurant, where we help you set everything up. We talk to you face to face about your menus and like how things are going and what your needs are, right? And I think because of that, we avoid the situation that you're talking about of like, people want the product, but they don't want to deal with the technology. Let us act as almost a service company on top of being a tech company, right? And help you install it and get everything up to snuff. And then we're always here if you need us. People are always shocked when I hand them my personal phone number as a founder, and it's like, yeah, call me anytime.
Yeah.
That's part of the process.
I love that. What are some of the questions that you see like during the implementation process? Like, what are people afraid of when it comes to bringing this in?
Yeah, there's like these more general fears about AI, right? And we could talk about like what AI is and what that stuff is, but just to more directly answer the question, the biggest fear is how is this going to affect my customers? Which is the best question you can ask as a business owner, right? Because that is like, if I'm putting any piece of technology between if I'm a restaurant owner and I'm putting something in between me and my customers, that directly affects my bottom line. And so I want to make sure that that is a very good piece of tech, or that's a very good experience for the end user. I can always handle a little bit of operational overhead. I don't want it, but if it makes my life a little bit easier on the other end, right? But if I lose a sale because of it, then it's a bad piece of software.
Correct.
And so the big question is like, how does it affect my customers? And do I need to constantly monitor it or be, wary of something going wrong? Our goal is to make it so that the customers have a better experience with the voice AI than they do with whoever is answering the phone now, and that is twofold. The first one is just because you reduce the amount of pressure of the person on the phone. So if I call in to place an order and that person on the other end inside the restaurant is also dealing with five other things, they're not going to give you the same amount of attention that you may need, especially if you haven't ordered from there before and you want to ask about the menu, or maybe you have some allergies, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
With the voice AI in place, though, the goal is they don't have that pressure anymore. You can sit there and talk to it as long as you want, and it'll answer all your questions. It'll allow you to take the order, and you're not in this rush state of having to bounce back and forth between things. So from the customer's perspective, it is new and it is a little bit interesting, to be able to talk to an AI rather than what you expect. But when it clicks, man, it really clicks, and both sides, the restaurateurs and the customers, seem to love it.
Nice. How long does it take to really put it in place?
Yeah, that's a I'm not a sales guy, so I'm going to give you a real answer. Sorry, I shouldn't make fun of our sales guys like that, but we have a lot of touch points in the technology stack in a restaurant, right? So it
Right.
does increase. You can't just sign up for it and have a dashboard like ready to go. So we have to integrate with the phone system, because you have your phone number that's been around forever. It's on your pizza boxes, it's on your pamphlets, Google Maps, whatever. We don't want you to have to change that. That's part
Right.
of that customer service thing, right? We want to make sure that you have the same number you've always had. So we talk to your phone provider or help you talk to them, or if you know what you're doing, you can talk to them. Have it forward into us, and then we handle the flow from there, right? Of whether it needs to be talking to the AI or go back into the restaurant. So that's one step. That usually takes a couple days to a week. And then we also at the same time are talking to your point of sale and getting that stuff configured. So we have to pull in your menu and do some testing with it. We do like a round of automated testing and human testing. So somebody from the team will sit there and just call in orders on a test number, which we also, give our customers. They can call in a test number before we go live as much as they want.
Okay.
And that also takes, usually 1 to 2 weeks, depending on what the point of sale is and what that integration process looks like. We need to clean up the menus. So it's a little bit longer than, a traditional piece of software, but that is because it is like you get it up and running and then you're good. It's just not something you have to babysit.
Yeah, I think most owners would say take as long as you need, just do it the right way, right?
Yes.
Anybody that needs a solution right now, this is probably not the right solution in my opinion. Like if you needed something now, you're
Yeah.
probably a little too late.
Yes.
Just say, but I just know how folks are. Like if you're in a rush, you're probably, you probably should have been doing this 6 weeks ago or 6 months ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we still want to make them happy. We still will move as fast as we can. But my goal is never to sacrifice quality in the name of speed unless I can really help it, and I hope that our customers understand that too. And like I said, I just have to be blunt with them at some point. I was like, hey, you've got a complicated menu. I'm taking some extra time to make sure this thing is good. And once it's good, it'll be there. But you'd rather me do this. I promise you'd rather me do this now and take the
Yeah,
upfront time than launch it and have your customers go, well, this sucks. And then churn. They're going to go call the next place over, and that's the opposite of what we want.
exactly. And well, in this space, and I know this is still rather new technology, but we're starting to see some players, come to the market with products similar to yours. What sets you guys apart? And obviously I hear the white glove approach and that southern touch that you bring to it. What else? And I know you, and I just saw you guys in Orlando a couple of weeks ago, and there was a lot of folks kind of hanging around and talking to you. What sets you apart from some of the other guys? And nothing against anybody else, but what do you feel
No,
like?
yeah,
What do you
of
feel
course.
sets you guys apart?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the first thing I always point to is our customer focused approach, right? Like we actively work to be just as much a service company as we do like a tech company.
Yeah,
And I think that the previous operator experience that we have with Cameron and Charles having so much deep industry knowledge about like what it's like to sell into restaurants and to work with restaurateurs really helps define that approach, right? But in terms of the actual like product itself, we do get a lot of people that come from other products trying out similar things across the board, whether that's larger companies or other startups like us. And we consistently hear that our voice quality and our ability to add items and check out is a lot smoother.
got it.
There's a couple things that happen on the back end and our actual technical side of things that I'm not going to go super deep into here, but we do have a lot of proprietary software that we're working on that helps us more efficiently take the order, and it's all about, it's not just efficiency, but it's like, the customer care involved, and teaching an AI to treat a customer well is difficult, otherwise everybody would have done it super well already. And so we're always working, I've got my team of developers and myself, we're always working to make sure that orders are as accurate as they can be. They're being taken in a way that isn't annoying, because some AI is just super verbose and that's not fun to talk to on the phone. And so I think we have a great mix of both the customer satisfaction side from our operations team, but also just some of the technical work we're working on the back end. And that really comes together to make something special.
And the AI is continuously learning and training on, for example, my product and my menu, my offerings. Even if that changes, how does that? If what happens if I change some items or change pricing? Does that all happen in real time too?
It does. Yeah. So the cool thing about integrating directly with point of sales, either, through direct integrations with them or through third-party aggregators like DeliverX, is we pull in that menu data as soon as it's synced up. And so that could come in the form of, maybe something's 86. We get that information. Maybe you've added a new special to the menu. If that stuff's synced to your point of sale and it syncs to us. And so anything you can order online or order in person, if it's on the menu, then we see it and we grab it. And if the customer asks about it, we know, which is, again, it's nice because then nobody has to babysit it. Nobody wants to add another thing to the headache of daily operations of making sure that Virnika is up to date. We'd rather just sync it all for you and then not have to worry about it for anybody.
Oh, I love that. How much can it actually handle?
Depends on what you mean.
Like how many, like if I'm in a high volume situation and we're normally, call it, well, it's really not 4 lines anymore with voice over IP, but we just got like unlimited phone. We got phones ringing like crazy in the restaurant, usually 3, 4, 5 phones at a time, 4 or 5 cashiers going. Can one agent take that off of our plate? One agent?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we can technically scale to as many simultaneous customers as you want. Right. I mean, it's a setting for us that we can always change to make sure that people have as much scaling as they need. If you have, 5 customers calling in at once, if you have 20, we could handle that just as easily. And then the number of orders, really, that's like dependent on the kitchen.
Okay.
We do have some customers that have to call us and be like, hey, we've got to shut this thing off. We're taking too many orders and the kitchen is backed up. And it's like, that is the best possible problem. I'm a little bummed they're shutting off our service, but that is the best way to do it, right? Is like, hey, we are sending so many orders your way and it is working so well that like the kitchen is the bottleneck, not us. And so, yeah, volume is really, that's the great thing about being able to automate some of this stuff is that like you get a ton more volume and then you can shift somebody that was working on the phone to helping with any of the other operations inside the restaurant, right? And so that's kind of the beauty of this whole thing is, people sometimes view it as labor replacement, but what we're saying is that nobody is hiring just for the phone. You're always taking somebody, I'm sure, again, somebody does, there's always exceptions, right? But like most of the time, in my experience, at least, it was, I've got 5 other things to do, and now I'm taking a phone call because I can't not let the order go through, right? If you don't have to worry about that again, put your people on the stuff that actually makes things go faster.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We used to have a rule in the shop, like whoever's the last person there, you can't leave because just in case the phone rings, there'll be, 4 of us working front of house, but someone's got to go clean tables and someone's got to run food and someone's got to, take care of whatever else is going on, change a television or whatever. But whoever's the last person there, you can't leave because the phone's going to ring and we don't want to have to chase it. We want to catch it in 2 rings and we don't want to keep people waiting. So, I think that's really cool. And I like the point that you made that it's not a labor replacement. I know that that's kind of the sentiment that goes around with AI. People toss that around, but anyone who's ever done it understands that if there's a tool that can help me, I need to figure out how to put that in place. But I imagine that along with a system or a service and agents like this, there are learnings and analytics that come on the back end that help you improve operationally. What does that look like?
Man,
that's probably my favorite part too, by the way.
Yeah, good. Okay, I could talk about this for hours. So one of our biggest bottlenecks as a company, when we provide the service is how do we make sure that we're getting this person onboarded as quickly as possible, right? And to quality. So before we even start taking any calls, how am I, let's say I'm selling into your restaurant. How do I make sure that you don't have the headache of dealing with your telephone supplier more than you need to be? Mm-hmm. What does that process look like? And what does the process look like for connecting to the point of sale? And if I can nail those 2 things in a reasonable amount of time with minimal, intervention from you, then we basically done an entire onboarding with you only just needing to say yes and then putting in a credit card, which is primo from my perspective, and I'm sure from most restaurateurs we hear from too, it's like the less work I have to do on this, the better. Because again, you're doing other stuff. And so, yeah, along with those learnings that we take from every customer who has a different tech stack, their telephone system different, right? We always make sure we take notes on what that stuff looks like and put them into protocols for future customers. So we're always learning on the operational front. But on the actual phone call side, you would not believe the amount of random stuff that people will call in about. And sometimes you learn from it, and sometimes you're like, I actively do not want to learn from this. I never want to see this again. But it's stuff like, what is the lead time on a huge order, right? Or like, how far in advance do people typically call to request a huge table? Like, I got 15 people coming in. Are you guys cool with that? Like, no, dog. It's like 8 p.m. on a Friday night. No, I'm not cool with that. You're going to wait like 2 hours. And so making sure that we're looking at that stuff, and it's restaurant to restaurant too, right? Which is both the interesting part and the hardest part of the problem is we want to make sure that every restaurant has its own brand, and own like information bank that we store and learn from constantly. So yeah, we have this process in the back end where every time a call comes through, we basically collect a bunch of information from it, like just a bulleted list. And then we check and see if that location has that information stored already, or maybe that brand's locations. And if it's not there and it's like an actual pertinent piece of info that we could use in the future, then we add it to a list. It's like, okay, hey, next time somebody calls in, if they ask about this, we know exactly what kind of patio seating they have because somebody, and that's the other nice thing about listening to the calls once they're transferred into the store is if our AI agent Penny can't handle it, then she passes it back into the store because, sometimes people need to actually talk to a person. That's great. But we also get that information. We get the transcript that is pulled in from that part, and we can learn from that too. And so the goal is like, over time, as your staff answers more questions that maybe we didn't think about during the onboarding process, you'll have less calls going into the store because we'll get much better over time at answering questions, taking orders, that kind of stuff.
Oh, I love that. Running a pizza shop is not easy. You're juggling orders, staff, and everything in between. That's exactly why I teamed up with Thrive POS. They're a company that built their POS system for pizzeria operators who live this every single day. I've worked with their team before, and I've seen firsthand how focused they are on making tech that actually fix our workflow. It's not the other way around. So if you're ready to simplify your operations, streamline your online orders, and get better control of your shop, this is the move. Head on over to thrivepos.com/Pizza King to see exactly what they're doing for operators all across the country. Again, that's thrivepos.com/Pizza King and get the exclusive offer. Now let's get back to the episode. What are the customers saying? Are there many customers that say, look, I need to talk to a person?
Once it's up and running and going good, not really. There's always some people that immediately want to, they hit 0 or 1 or say, please take me into a person, or more likely they shout, human, human, human. And, I get it. It's a new tech. It's scary sometimes, and people are not nobody likes change.
Right.
That's the big takeaway from, I think, pretty much everything. Sure. But the people that love it, really love it. And I was really surprised at the demographics. We were finding out that older folks love this thing because they like how polite it is. They like that it takes their order in a patient way and gives them, and it makes sense because we kind of tuned it to act like what you would expect almost a diner waitress to be back in the day, right? We wanted that really polite, not overly so where it's annoying, but just what you want out of a great dining experience, but over the phone. And so they seem to really appreciate it. I have seen dudes try to flirt with Penny, which is hilarious always. So, maybe not liking her in the way that I want them to, but I'll take what I can get.
Oh, Lord, Penny doesn't accept tips. Get out of here.
No, the restaurant does, not Penny. Yes, we've been blown away by the customer feedback, not just the restaurateurs, but the end users themselves.
Are you working with any businesses that aren't restaurants that handle a huge amount of call volume?
No, we're restaurant specific, man.
Restaurants.
That's all we live and breathe it. We got told early on by, we had some people advising us for a little bit there as like a tech startup, not as a company for restaurants, you know what I mean? And they suggested that we go horizontal. We go and sell to different types of companies. And we pushed back pretty hard on that because that's all of our domain expertise, where Cameron and Charles have decades of combined experience, right? And that's why are we pushing away from the hard problems to an easier one when we are experts in the domain, or hopefully, right? None of us are going to sit here and have an ego about it, but when you have experience in something, you want to leverage that and make a good product. And so we pushed back really hard to stay restaurant vertical only. And it has paid off dividends because that's where our networks are. Right. We've only gotten bigger networks as we've gone through this process. And is it a harder problem than some other verticals? Absolutely. If I went into scheduling for blue collar workers that were, doing trades and needed a scheduler for their equipment or something like that, that's theoretically an easier problem to solve. But we knew restaurants and we knew that it was a very difficult problem. And that was part of the appeal of okay, well, if it's difficult, then that means there's not going to be that many people that can beat us if we're good at it.
I love that. Well, I think that it builds trust in the segment, right? When people know that you're focused on solving their problems. You guys did a session at the Florida Restaurant Show, and from what I understand, there was probably got a lot of questions during, but at those shows, a lot of people like to stop you after you're done and come and ask you.
Yeah, he had a lot of that. I'm going to drive people over to the booth. Yeah,
bring their real questions. You talked about how a restaurant can actually, determine what, ROI from an AI platform. What does that look like?
Yeah, that is. Earlier you asked me about what are common questions. This is one of the ones that I get that is on the harder side, is how do you determine ROI, right? Because it's not you can do the math and you can figure out okay, I saved this many hours if you're just looking at it from a labor perspective, right? Yeah. I saved this many hours by not having to hire, bring in one person for 2 hours to answer the phone during rush. I was able to move somebody over to any sort of other operational aspect of the restaurant. And so technically there's some labor savings there that you could calculate the minutes and figure that out. I think the true ROI is you get so many different touch points of you're automating the orders. Our agent is probably upselling, right? We
Right.
do a lot of that for clients. They can customize what kind of upselling, cross-selling they're doing. And so you're increasing your ticket average. You're saving a little bit on the labor side of things. If you don't want to bring in somebody for just a couple hours, you're reducing like, this is the unspoken part of the ROI that I really like love when people's faces light up when they realize this of like, there's a tension when you know the phone could always ring, right? And you don't think about it. But as soon as the phone rings, everybody's anxiety spikes. And when you get rid of that, everybody is just focused on the stuff that they are focusing on at the moment, right? There's no chance of being pulled away, or is it like way reduced chance of being pulled away to a phone to do something completely mode switch out of what you were doing. And we have this concept. I work a lot with developers, so this is the framework I normally work under, but like mode switching is one of the biggest killers of momentum. And that's not just true for software development. That's true in like everything we do, right? As soon as you move off of a task, you're going to be less effective when you come back and have to kind of ramp back up into that momentum. So there's a hidden cost there that we're kind of getting rid of when we install this system.
Yeah. I think that's important too. And as you said it, I'm thinking about all of the mornings where we're in the shop and the phone rings and it's someone who doesn't even want an order. It's a sales call or a spam call or, just something that has nothing to do with what we're working on. And it just slows us down, you
Yeah,
know,
totally.
kills our time. So I think that's an important one. I love the highlight on that. How does a restaurant choose what's going to work for them? Like, how do you even interview a company or a tech company with an AI solution if you don't know anything about AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Because you're layering multiple different types of technology onto each other and you're putting it in front of customers immediately. Like, it's not something you can just test back of house for 2 months and see, like, okay, is this working? The only way you're going to test it is by having customers use it and see what works. And so we understand that it's a very high risk, high reward scenario.
Hmm.
And, that risk part being the, the imperative part of that. And my I do the same thing when I'm talking to vendors for us is like, just talk to them and figure out like, do they seem like good people? Do they seem like they're trying to get one over on you? Or are they trying to just provide a good service, and understand what your problems are and are trying to solve that to the best of their ability? No software is ever going to be 100% perfect, right? Like nothing ever is. But if I can trust my vendors to solve an immediate problem and then get better with me in the future, I'll take that any day over some guys that seem like they're just in for a quick buck and trying to make things not scam, but not fully on board.
Yeah.
And so I think at the end of the day, it comes back to just like that human touch of making sure that you're working with people that are on your side and understand your problems. I would also say if they can't give you a demo, I would run for the hills. I mean, because if you can't demo it, what are your customers like? You need to be able to see what you're buying before you fully buy it. And so we spin up a ton of demos for customers that don't ever buy, and that's totally fine. That's part of the process for us is making sure that like people get to see and hear what it looks like. We also send out, if somebody wants to see live customers, we just give them the number.
Yeah.
We're not, and I think you know, somebody's going to find cracks on some of those. Somebody's going to have complaints about some of they have a conversation that doesn't go perfect. And I'm like, yeah, this is what it's like in the live, man. Like
That's the
I'll do
real
whatever
world.
I can to make it better. Yeah, exactly. Like I think just the being truthful about what you're selling and having those conversations and being willing to see the product in action are kind of the most important things for me.
I love that. What are some of the features that matter the most to the operators that you work with? I know that, handling phone calls or getting orders through are great. Are there any other features that just, you're talking to your customers or your current roster of clients and they're like, thank God you did this. I didn't even know this was going to happen initially, but you just saved my
Yeah,
life.
yeah. The upselling is a big one. Like consistently upselling and like in ways that are pretty natural too, right? Like you order a pizza and it suggests the garlic knots. That's an easy one. The ones that people are really excited about are the stuff of like, at a wing place or a sandwich place that we have, it really pushes drinks because they're great margins, and that's stuff that like you can train somebody to do on the phone, but how consistent are they really going to be at it when again, it comes back to this thing. They're juggling five things. Nobody's going to be great at upselling or cross selling like really systematically when they're juggling 5 different things and then have to take a phone call. But that's all Agent Penny does. And so she's really good at, if I order a dozen wings with a really hot sauce, she's like, hey, you should grab a drink while you're here, or maybe like a cookie for dessert. And so we've noticed that customers are really surprised about how good she is at it, and love that aspect.
That's really cool. I have to put some calls, and I know Kyle. I think Kyle gave me a number to try.
Yeah, dude.
I just hadn't
Anytime.
done it yet, but I'm gonna call. Maybe we'll do one live on the show one day and just kind of,
Yeah.
let
Well,
show.
hey, we'll build you a custom demo, man. I'll get you exactly what you want. We can make it just for you.
That'll be super fun. What do you see in the future of AI and restaurant operations? Specifically.
Yeah, we our big thing is the phone agent right now, right? Like that's most of our deal. But our long-term vision is, what are the other problems that we can find that are in the back of GMs and operators' heads day in, day out, that we can solve in a similar way?
Yeah.
And so things like, maybe there's some opportunity for helping with scheduling. Maybe there's some opportunity for helping with fulfillment and, like, ingredients. There's a whole bunch of stuff that is constantly weighing down, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but it really adds up. And so we envision solving all those tasks through taking, like, all of the information about your restaurant, and obviously it's, like, securely stored and stuff, but it links to all of these different tasks, and we're constantly pulling it in and assigning agents to handle the stuff that you don't want to handle. And they've got reliable information because they're being pulled in from each of the different ones. And so we really think there's an opportunity here to, like, have a GM assistant in your pocket that you can tell, I want to run a wing special on Tuesday. And it's like, sweet, I'm going to make sure that somebody else is called in to have a person up. I'm going to make sure our wings are ordered for by that time and ready in the freezer. And then I'm going to make sure that we post it on socials. And, like, what if you could just do that and have it done? And then you focus on making sure your staff are ready to go and that everything is good on your end.
That's a huge opportunity for leadership in a restaurant. I've been working, and I'm not tech savvy at all, but I've been trying to create like a custom GPT as like a general, just an assistant to a manager, to just someone to ask questions. How should I do this? Or how do I count this? Or, what happens if we try this recipe out? Being able to answer and coach and mentor through some of those things. But as an actual tool, that becomes a game changer. That becomes a
Yeah,
game changer.
and one of the ways that I think we differ a little bit from other software, there are some software that will do this, like, not quite that level, but, like, will give you insight into your business,
Mm-hmm.
And we think that we need to reach people where they're at. And so nobody likes logging to a dashboard, like the financial guys do, and some guys that are really on top of their game do. But most of the time, people are taking calls or texts or emails at
Yep.
the most, right? And so when we talk about having all of these agents and doing all this information sharing and really automating back of house stuff, like, we want that to interact the same way you would interact with an actual assistant and just call it.
Yeah.
The same way that you call the phone ordering agent and be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. How can you help me get there? And it does all the stuff in the back end and tells you and talks to you about it the same way that you would want, because that's the way that we communicate, right? That's the
Absolutely.
easiest way.
Man, that's really cool. I was scrolling through your website, and it looks like you guys have really no limits on how you can integrate. I was gonna ask, like, what's the ideal setup, but as I'm scrolling down, you pretty much do it all. Whether it's a voice over IP or an analog. Like, no one really has an analog system, but just in case they do,
You'd be surprised.
so you guys have done a good job. How does that? And I guess the question I'm asking is, like, what's the best setup to get started?
That's set up. Yeah, I mean, so like you said, we will work with anybody. I will do my best to make sure that if you want to be our customer, I will get you set up in one way or another, right? And with minimal changes on your end. But the easiest one for us is, yeah, if you've already got a VoIP in place, that makes it a lot easier, because what we need to do is sit in between the number that the customers see, like on Google Maps or again on your pizza box, and then if you have in-house phones, if we need to forward back into them, right? And so
Yeah.
if you have a VoIP set up and know what you're doing on there, it's a lot easier. If you don't, that's totally cool. We've got options for that too. And then on the point of sale side, we work really closely with DeliverAct. And so if you are a DeliverAct customer, that's, we can get you up and running like super fast. And that's really exciting for us. They've been a great partner. And so, yeah, I mean, but we're constantly working on point of sale integrations, and we're working on getting a tablet option out for people that don't want to do, the point of sale stuff. They want it in a separate tablet and printer combo. And so we're really trying to flex our muscles on getting everybody possible that could possibly want to buy it.
How long before we can just text orders in?
That's on my list of things to do, and I can't say when it'll happen.
Sorry.
No. I'm mostly just messing with you. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, hopefully it's good news to hear that, yeah, we're actively working on that. So I know there's a couple, there's a couple competitors that do that too. Texting is a interesting thing because it's like, it's not something I ever thought of before somebody brought it up. And I was like, that's really smart. That makes a lot of sense. We should do that. And you can just use a lot of the same tech that you use for the phone, right? Because it's, instead of the voice, it's just sending you an SMS. So we're also messing around with, it's called RCS. It's this new texting technology where you can basically embed images and like interactive stuff into an SMS message, which we think is super cool. And so we're messing around with that too. So exciting stuff in the future. I don't have a good timeline on it yet, but yeah, man, we're stoked to work on that more.
Man, I want to come work there. I already see it.
You are welcome to hang out anytime, dude. I mean, you are always welcome in the office.
I see marketing, I see operations, I see leadership, I see all these different solutions for you guys, and I'm excited about it. What's the best way for someone to reach out and talk to, one of the sales guys? It's probably going to promise you it's going to happen faster, but just, I'm kidding. How do they find you guys if they want to learn more about Virnika?
Yeah, it's probably one of the best ways is on our website, Virnika AI. And there's a link there that you can schedule a call directly with one of our sales guys. You can look at a demo. You can see all the stuff we're offering, including some current customers. And so we've got that validation there. You can also, I mean, people are free to, like I said, just reach out to me personally, Logan at Virnika.ai. You can shoot me a message over email or find me on LinkedIn or whatever's best for you. I don't really use social media that much. I don't have a Twitter or anything like that. I'm always happy to respond to emails, take calls, that kind of thing.
Nice. All right. Last question before we go. What's your go-to pizza order?
Man, I don't know if I'm going to get a harangue for this. I'm a big pineapple pepperoni guy.
I like it.
Yeah. So I like the salty and sweet, man. It's some people don't like the pineapple and some people are very against the pineapple, but it's
a lot of people.
Yeah. I understand it, but that's, it's how I roll.
I'm with it. That's actually my favorite is pepperoni pineapple with banana peppers. I like a little bit of spice with it, but yeah. I put a poll out maybe sometime last year that was, what are the worst pizza toppings, or tell me something you'll never put on a pizza. And hands down, people said, keep pineapples and anchovies, no anchovies, no pineapple. And of course we went back to the shop and we made a pineapple and anchovy pizza and had that. And it was fair. It was good. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah, that mixture might be interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely a pineapple guy, not an anchovy guy. I will say though, I don't know if I've only ever heard of this in Indiana. I'm sure other people do this too. It was very common to serve nacho cheese with pizza. Really? I don't know if you've ever heard about that. Yeah. So we used to, at the place I worked at and a lot of the chains back in Indiana, it was, you would get it as like a dipper and you would just dip your pizza in nacho cheese or your breadsticks. Yeah. And I kind of miss it. Nobody does that around here. So
I'm trying to think. So I grew up in Michigan and we probably did. I just don't remember.
Sure. Yeah.
We probably
good, man. You can go get one of those giant cans of nacho cheese. It's like 5 pounds or whatever. Just pour one of those out in a bowl.
I'm gonna try it with the kids here. See if they like it.
Absolutely.
See if they enjoy it. Logan, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and tell us about Virnika and about you. I'm sure folks will have some questions for you guys, and we'll get all the information in the show notes for them to reach out. But thanks again. Just I just appreciate you just coming by to give us this today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm always happy to be on.
Yes, sir. We're looking forward to it. Hey, go check out these guys. Go, follow them on LinkedIn. You guys got social media pages for the company though? Oh, Instagram, Facebook?
Yep, up on LinkedIn, and the Instagram needs some love, but we're working on it.
All right.
We'll get Kyle on taking some pictures.
All right, we'll show some love on both of those, and anybody that wants to reach out, just reach out to these guys.
Thanks, man.
If you've gotten any value out of this episode or any of our other episodes, I need you to do me a favor. Go leave us a review. Every review on Apple, every 5-star rating on Spotify helps this show find more operators just like you and helps them get that same value that you're taking away from this episode. And as a thank you, anytime somebody leaves a review, sends me a screenshot, just DM me a screenshot of your review, I'm going to send you a free gift, something awesome, something cool. I'll send you a gift, whoever leaves a review. That's the challenge. Go leave a review, DM me a screenshot of it, and then I'll get you something. I got you something special from your boy. Now let's get back into the episode. Peace.